Good evening, everyone. We'll begin in next 5 minutes, right? Good evening, everyone. I'm Hemant Mehta, and I'm very glad to see you all here for this session. Okay? Tonight, we'll explore one of the most powerful concept in modern software engineering, and that is basically DevOps, and that too on AWS. So I'm expecting, even if I'm not expecting, at least I'm, having like an assumption that all of you are from the IT background. I know most of you guys personally. Uh, Actually, I'm doing some once a week this session, this kind of a session, a demo session or a 1 day session on any topic. For today, we have a DevOps and especially the CI/CD pipeline, why it is, and before CI/CD, how we were doing it. So everything we're gonna cover it, right? Uh, so even if you are new to DevOps, don't worry. By the end of this session, you will understand how this automation transform traditional development, right? So let's begin with the presentation. So what are our agenda for today? Uh, so we will have a little bit history about DevOps, right? A history about cloud too, and a syllabus. Actually, it's a full-fledged syllabus. We are not going to cover it, of course, in 1 day. So what are the syllabus, if anyone will be interested? And then the prerequisite and the requirement. Let's suppose what are the minimum expectation we have, you must know before we're gonna begin, in a full-fledged course. And the question answer round. And forgot not to mention about, right, how we will have this demo session for CI/CD, especially today. Okay. So what is DevOps? Before DevOps, let me start with this slide. Okay. So every one of us, in directly or indirectly, we use IT product, right? Or we use some kind of a business solution in the form of software, in the form of app. Okay. So how basically this app develop prior to this DevOps area, right? So definitely there are two teams, right? One team is responsible for coding, right? Basically everyone aware about the role that's a software developer, right? Be it a junior developer or senior developer, but that's a basic job is to develop a software for some kind of a solution that will benefit any kind of a business, right? So their job is to write a code, add some features, according to their requirement and the taste, right? And let's suppose once they have built the software, they will definitely have some kind of a new requirement, and their company we're gonna ask, okay, we have to change particular features, so that to accommodate it new culture of the company or whatever. Okay. So there are changes, and the normally prior to this DevOps era, and to be precise, before 2017, right? um Normally, the developer, they say that we develop a software, we tested it, it works on my laptop, and my job is khalas, my job is finished, right? And then the operation team, where I have a background, right? Almost a 2 decade I spent in this enterprise IT things, right? So there, what we are saying, our infra is right, And yeah, whenever there is a problem, normally there is a blame game. Always there is a blame game. We are saying our infra is right. There is no problem in our infra side, so there is must be some problem in your software code. So the and because of this blame game between these two teams, who suffers most? Of course, our business owners or our client. Let's suppose if we are delivering some software to our client, so there will be definitely a delay in that one, right? And every time the infra guy, they have to, you know, fix even the smallest bugs whenever it will come, and they're gonna raise a ticket, and we have to solve it. There is no other way around. Okay. So basically, these are the culture. Even till 2017-18 is very, very, happening everywhere. It is happening everywhere. Then the industry, industry realized that this is not work. This is not a workable solution. So why not to have a kind of a rule which gonna have a combination, or like that will bridge a gap between these two, the developer team and the operation team, so that the ultimately the business should not suffer. Because ultimately if there is a delay, there is a money loss, right? Because let's suppose you have a 7 days, even a 1 week delay for any project, right? So 1 week, you can imagine the costing of per hour costing or per minute costing for a whole team. It gonna cost those company very dearly, right? So why not to develop a team, or develop a guy, or develop a kind of engineering or a culture, so that whatever the problem right now we are facing it, there should be some kind of a solution for that one, right? So in this one, let's say prior to DevOps, no, the problem was the slow release, blame game, manual deployment, right? I will show you the one. The slide where how we are doing it, we were doing it, and still the industry which is not migrated to the DevOps culture, still they are doing the same thing, still right now also. Okay, so no feedback to the developer, because developer role was finished when they deliver the code to the infra team. So even the logs and the monitoring access was not with the developer team. So there was no feedback, An inconsistent environment. Basically, what we can draw a context here. Let's suppose a developer guy, a software developer guy, in their desktop or a laptop or a server, be it a lab server, Python version 3.10, they develop it. But on a prod, or a prod means like a production server, there is a earlier version. So maybe there are the chances, good chances are there that it will not work. Give me a 1 minute, okay? Yeah. So there are high chances that it will not work because of this version mismatch, and some kind of other extensions are not available to those things. So there is always a inconsistency problem. So that problem is also gonna be solved by the DevOps. Okay. So what actually this DevOps now? Let's go for this. What actually that is DevOps? DevOps is not a tool. Okay, it's not a technology, or it's not a tool. It's a kind of a culture. We are saying develop is a way of building, operating a software where development and the operation teams works together. There is a bridge, prior, which was when we have a blame game, when we have a inconsistency, when we have a, like a no feedback mechanism. So that gonna be solved by this DevOps. So what actually happening in DevOps as a principle, right? It makes entire workflow or entire flow automated and predictable and monitored. Predictable means we can understand if we have a certain change, how much time it gonna take to reflect in even a production environment. Everything will be automated. Even if something happen, how we gonna we can put a mechanism to for authorization, for testing. There are different tools are there. Okay. A little bit background, like why we nowadays, even in industry, this DevOps on AWS is very very popular because of this cloud thing. Prior to cloud, when we have a on premises data center, on-premises data center was very very popular, and still they are very very popular, by the way, in the enterprise, especially the large enterprise is very very popular right now also. Okay, but prior to cloud, which we are saying the cloud born somewhere around 2005 to 2006, there was no other alternative. So every company, every XYZ company must have their own data center, physical data center inside their company premises, right? Then the AWS happened, basically the Jeff Bezos company, the AWS happened. There is a sort of interesting story is that I think every one of you are aware of this Amazon guy, that they were not in the business of e-commerce first, right? They were in the business of selling books online. So they have a very large infra, and they were not using the in a very efficient way. So they thought, why not to rent the current infra to someone on a very for a little bucks, and they advertise it, and then the idea clicked, and it become a big thing nowadays. And then that cloud, actually, the we are saying that it happened in 2005 and 6, but the popularity it gained somewhere around 2009 and 10, just because that time we have 3G, as well as the latest modern Android and the smartphone and the other stuffs happened with during that period. So it skyrocketed these things that time. And then during this 2017, to be very precisely, I remember that 2017, this DevOps came as a like a surprise for us, surprise for us. Like prior, we know that there is a problem, but we didn't have a kind of a solution. What will be the solution? And we have a automation. It doesn't mean we can't say that in DevOps only we have an automation, and prior to DevOps we don't have an automation. We had automation, but we were not solving the problem what the traditional deployment was having, and that problem has been solved by the CI/CD pipeline, or you can say the DevOps thing, right? And what else? We already discussed this. DevOps is not a technology; it's a culture where we're gonna see the how automation works and or the workflows. And just a quick, I'll take very short time to explain what this full course is all about. That's a very precise 30 days, 1 hour session. Not a very lecturing session. That will be very, very, there will be a kind of a conceptual thing we're going to discuss, but mostly hands-on will be there, the project base. And what we require is or what how we gonna display all those things on AWS free tier, because when we talk about the cloud, AWS is the the king, or you can say the on the top position, having more than 30% market share. Okay, and the assessment, the daily lab checkpoint will be there, and the final the industry related project will have it. And we will have, and on top of that, even if you guys are not interested, we will be in a group to have a kind of a troubleshooting, the group. If you face, if you are in the industry, or if you are working for some company, or if you are planning to go for an interview, or planning to enter into this industry, if you have any problem, any doubt, we will have our group to just go through all those issue, and to have what kind of solution we will have. Prerequisite, when we are saying basically the technical skill, as most of you guys are from the IT background, so these are nothing, a basic command line, because when we are saying DevOps or that deployment part, basically these are from the infra side, right? So infra side, most of the servers we are playing, or you can say that we are working with, that is Linux. So we must be familiar with the Linux thing, a little bit Python scripting, Bash scripting should be very, very beneficial. And the basic understanding of network is also important, right? And where we're going to understand what this layers. If you understand the layers very well, it will be pretty easy to troubleshoot. And the IP concept, DNS, HTTP, and the other concepts. Okay. Um, the software development lifecycle. Basically, when we are developing a software, so it's not a like a one time so or one time thing, right? So you develop a software, then you deploy it or you hand it over to the client, and the client say it doesn't work, and then the client later on they say no, no, I want new features. So basically this not a one time job. So always that's a cycle, we are saying the life cycle. So it's a cycle. So if we have to understand what the software lifecycle and where the CI/CD gonna help in those cycles, familiarity with the Git or the version control system is very very important, because in industry we are using some kind of some form of a version control system, and the general awareness of the client server architecture, like how this, let's suppose we are browsing any website. So let's suppose from the server point of view, there are a web server, there are a application server, or the APIs are there. And from our point of view, from our side, we are browsing it through our laptop, mobile, or tablet, so how this client server architecture works, that should be our, the fundamental knowledge should be there, And the other thing, if you are having prior any cloud experience, that will be, the cherry on the cake. And the experience with the agile or scrum ceremonies, basically these are the how we are delivering the software in the modern, the culture. That is what this is. And the basic JSON kind of thing, JSON or YML file, we're gonna see one or two places we will use this one to even for today's demo session. So that's basically the prerequisite. That's not a very very difficult thing from our from any of you guys. Uh, if you have a basic understanding, these things are pretty easier to go through. That's not a big deal. And even if you don't have, if you guys will be interested, we will have a separate session for that one. That's not a problem. Maybe 1 week it will, we have to extend, 1 month is the normal schedule. So 1 week it will be extended. See, when we are saying this session or the coming session, if anyone will be interested, uh, definitely there will be hands-on. So for hands-on, we need a laptop, right? So for laptop, we there is should be like a minimum 8 GB and RAM, is required. If you have 16 GB, that's well and good. Minimum the hard disk requirement, everyone is having a 20 GB. That's not a big deal. Why we are saying only 20 GB? Because we are doing everything over the cloud. So basically we are not consuming our storage space, although we are consuming the cloud provider space. But whatever we are running on our laptop, most of the things, and for even accessing, so for that one only, we need to have a very decent RAM size. And the AWS account, AWS is giving us a free tier account. But for that one, you definitely should have some kind of a credit card or a dollar card. They won't charge you. They will deduct maybe a dollar or a two, just for just to verify whether you are a genuine guy or not, and they will revert it back in a day or two. Sometimes they will not even deduct it. And a decent internet connection definitely is required. You know, that's a basic things basically, right? So today, now we will dive into our hands-on session. Okay, so this is what we gonna cover it today. Okay, this is what is this? Don't be surprised. I'll explain everything. So this is GitHub repository. So it's kind of a version controlling system, or where we will have our source. Or let me show you some other slide. Okay. Okay, so traditionally, how like a pictorial view, I'm trying to share with you guys. Let's say developer was there, so developer was were writing the codes, and they were saying the working on machines, and they were pushing changes, and they were handing it over to the operation team. The operation team job was to manually deploy everything. If any problem occurs during the deployment, even or after the deployment, the server issues, they have to fix it. There were, of course, there was a problem and a long delay, unstable release, blame game, high stress, and the stressful life was there, right? How it looks like say developer guys, they were giving us a file in a or a build zip file. They were giving us a zip file. Us means like an infra team. So they were giving us this their complete zip file, and what our job was to those zip file we are using SCP or FTP, SFTP, some kind of this file transfer, application or protocol to transfer it to our server. When we are saying server, that basically we I'm talking about prior to this 2017, or I'm not talking about the cloud platform. So we were transferring this to our web server. Basically, we are having a Nginx, that's a very popular web server in enterprise throughout the world, right? So we were sending this zip file to our server, and there we have a lot of config file. Nginx conf. There are config file we have to configure. We have to edit all those configuration stuffs. And later on, once we are done with the configuration part, we were restarting the services, and then finally we were checking the logs and the monitoring things. This is what was happening prior to CI/CD, or prior to the DevOps, you can say. And then now our job today, what we will need it is a GitHub. Why? That will be our source. Let's suppose for our today's demo purpose, we'll have our simple index.html. I write only few lines of code in that one. Very simple file. So that file will be on our GitHub, and then we're gonna use a AWS tool that is called AWS CodeBuild, where we're gonna create a project, and that project will fetch out the source code from the GitHub, and then finally we're gonna deploy it over the S3. S3 basically S3 kind of a storage solution, you can say. And that's a pretty but we have other option also. Here we can use the Lambda and the other services also. We can use it here. That's not a problem. But for today's session, we will use the S3 bucket. Okay, so this is actual workflow what we're gonna cover it today. That is a GitHub repository where we will have our source code or index.html. From there, we will bring that code into this build. Okay, build, and from there we're gonna deploy into the S3 bucket. Okay, and everything will be automated, and the kind of the flow will be very very automated, very very automated. So let's begin. I'll now share my full screen. I'll start everything. Let me see. Different test. Okay, so for me, this is my GitHub. Okay, so I have two repository. Okay, I'm assuming guys having you guys have this kind of expertise or the knowledge and the basic knowledge about the Git. Even if you don't have, later on, if you're gonna say or if you're gonna demand, we will have that separate session for Git and this. So I have a repository. So for today, I gonna use this Nepasys repository, and from here I basically required two files. Okay, one is the index.html and another is the build spec. Okay, this is what we gonna use it from this GitHub. And let's go for this AWS console, because we will have this everything configured in AWS. That is not visible properly. Anyway, so basically I'm accessing right now my AWS console. Okay. So this is my AWS console. Recently, I have visited, or the previously for our demo session, I have created a lot of things. So this is what the page look like. Otherwise, if you are new, this page won't appear here. Recently, it won't appear here. Okay. So first thing first, let's see here. Okay. So finally, we will have this GitHub repository, which is hosted somewhere else, right? Our source code is somewhere else. From there, we will bring that code on our S3 bucket that is on Amazon, okay, AWS. And from here, we will host our static website. So first thing what we're gonna create today is S3 bucket. Okay, so let's go and create S3 bucket. So here, simple, go for S3. Create a bucket. By the way, S3 itself is not a big thing, but it's a separate subject, separate tools. There are a lot of things we can do it. Just for today, I gonna skip all other complexity. I'll go for the very normal or the general purpose thing. Okay, so here the general purpose, and we have to put some name, and that name should be very very unique. Throughout the world, that bucket name will be unique. In AWS environment, there is no other guy, there is no other company should have that same name. So for today, we will have like name process, uh, CICD bucket. Okay, and then we have by default public access is blocked, but how we gonna say it, because I gonna share that link with you guys also, so you can also access it. For to access that one, definitely we have to uncheck this one, and I acknowledge, of course, that it gonna be accessed from outside. Right now there is something called, right, we are saying the version control, right? We have an option here to enable that version controlling, but I'm skipping for today's session. Okay, I think that's it. Create a bucket. Okay, once it is created, what we have to do is go for the permission part, and wait, before to permission, go for properties. Here, what we have to enable, we have to enable the static hosting. So we will enable static hosting. Basically, we are preparing like from GitHub, the actual index.html will come here. Okay. So I have their file index.html. So I have to mention that file name here. We are not copying, by the way. Okay, S3 is basically a bucket, kind of a storage solution, you can say. Here we have all the liberty to even upload directly here, but we'll see the beauty of CI/CD, that we will not upload the index. Only we are writing just name. We are not uploading anything here. and it will fetch out everything from the GitHub. And let's go for the permission part. And here I have to define a permission. It's pretty easy. That's a wait, here, and I have to copy this. I have already one file. Okay, so I'm gonna say if you guys require this, this file, I'll share with you guys also, not a problem. So I have to just change this, exact bucket name, whatever we have created right now. This policy is nothing but we are saying that it is allowed, okay, and resources will be this one. Basically, we are giving the permission in policy, basically, okay. So I add down the policy here. It's pretty easy. You can Google it and you can ask this thing for any LLM. They will give you the answer, not a big thing. So our S3 is done. So we finished with this S3, and we are saying that if anything will come from the GitHub, it will come there, not a problem. Now our job is to create a build things. Okay, so code pipeline. You just search this code pipeline. Okay, here you can see there are a lot of options here. In the left side, we have a code build, code deploy, and the code pipeline. Okay, uh, here let first what we have to do, we have to code build. If you'll see our slide is here, right. So we done with this S3. Okay, we created a S3 bucket. We have a Git repository already here, so I already shared with you guys, right? So this is my GitHub repository. Okay, what else we require is now to create a build and this deploy thing, right? So for that, we have to get started with the build, create a project. Here you have to name the project. Let's so for today we are saying the name process demo CI/CD build project. Okay, and then source, we are saying what will be the source. Basically, I'll again take you to my this one workflow. Source will be our GitHub repository. Okay, so or anything else, there are a lot of other things you can do it, but for today's session our sources, our code are already hosted on GitHub. Okay, so I will say the GitHub. Okay, and normally in my case right now it is saying your account is successfully connected by using the AWS managed GitHub. Why? Because previously I have connected it. Otherwise, let me open a new tab. I'll show you why it is already successfully connected. Just because in setting we have connection, right? Here is the connection tab. So I already connected my GitHub. That is, I put a name, that's a Meta GitHub. And these are I already give this AWS as a permission to access the repository from my GitHub. Okay. So previously I have a connection. Or you can create simple connection here. Let's say you can go here and the GitHub and the simple things they're going to ask you and it will be finished. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Or in a separate session, we can do from the scratch. Not a problem. Okay. So yeah, here we have account. Okay, now as it is already connected, I should have this repository here. Okay. So I have in that, GitHub, there is, I show you that I have two repository. So what the repository I am looking for is Nepasis. In that Nepasis, I have index.html, right? This one, right? And then here we have a single bit. I'll go for the default, not a problem, not a problem. Environment is on demand, EC2, those kind of things. And in EC2, what basically this will launch over the EC2, right? Or Lambda, you have a lot of other options. But just for today, we'll have EC2. Okay. And operating system, you have a lot of other options. Just for today, Amazon Linux, I'll go for the default, not a problem. Okay. Okay. And the roles basically this there is something called identity and access management. So we will see right just after this one that there should be role defined that how they will access these services and the other product. So by default, they are saying that if we have a existing role, we can say that existing service role. Otherwise, we'll create the new roles, not a role name. You can put it whatever you name you want. Let's suppose we are saying name process demo. The role name is build. CV. Okay. Mm, Here is very important thing again. Insert build command. Let's suppose you can write the command here. Let's suppose when we are what do you mean by building? Uh, every one of you, I'm expecting some point of a time you have deploy your code even on your desktop. Let's suppose if you have Node.js. So what you are doing, you are installing npm, and then you are using the command npm run dev, and those things happen, right? So basically, we are building it. There is a source code even on my repository, right? So if I taking that source code and put it in our server that is in AWS, what are all the command I need to execute? Okay, that thing need to be mentioned here. That's a very, very important thing. So what I'll use it is a build spec file. Okay, what is this build spec file? I'll show you a quick one. It's pretty easy. That's not a simple googling can give you a lot of simple. Let's suppose because I gonna show you very simple index.html, so I don't need to install anything. Otherwise I can say that I need to install this npm and other things, right? And base directory is our main directory. Like you can see that here in Nepasis only, on the main only I have index.html. So this is the basic file. Build spec yml file is required. So I gonna say here my file name is build spec.yml. Okay, and I think we are done with this one now. CloudWatch, we will have this one. S3 is optional, so I'll not do this. So we're gonna create a build product. So it will take a minutes or two, and then so whatever we did it till now, that is something called CI, that CI/CD, right? So this is the CI part, continuous integration. So we integrated our source code into where we have our servers. That is what you can say right now till now. Okay, now our job is to create a pipeline, because just having a connection doesn't give us the full-fledged the production environment site, right? So we'll have a code pipeline here. So let's create a code pipeline. So create a pipeline. Okay, here we have a deployment, continuous integration, automation, other things. Okay, for today's session we will have a custom pipeline. We're gonna build a custom pipeline next. So we'll have a pipeline name. Let's go name process pipe. line demo. Okay. New service role is already here. Okay. Advanced setup. Next. Here the source provider. Where is the source? Our source is in GitHub, right? And as the GitHub is already connected, so it should show my connection. I already show you the guys the connection, right? So Meta GitHub connection and the repository which I gave access, that's Neposis. And in the repository, where are the my main file is under the main. Okay, and I think that's it. Next, and here the command you can use the command here, as we have already built, right? We already have the build, right? We make a build. So where we make a build, that's a through the AWS code build, right? Just now we created, right? So what is the code build name? So we already said that CI/CD build project, right? And that's it. Next, that's very optional. Testing is, I don't want to do it right now. Deploy part, I do it the next part in this. Okay, so next, and then let's finish it. Create pipeline. Okay, so right now you can see source is already is here, right? Now they are building it. Okay, but they will be not able to build it just because they don't have a permission. So let's go to configure the permission. Here is identity and access management. And in the roles section, we have this role here. And in permission, we have to add a policy called cloud formation. You have an option to give a admin, right? But that's not advisable, by the way. So it require a cloud formation. And let me go to this role too. Here also I should give them a should full access. Okay. So I think role part is done. Now let me go here. So now you can see that sourcing is done, build is done now. Okay, but our job is to only build it. Build is means like they build it, they tested it, everything works, but finally we have to deploy it also, right? So till now deployment has been not done here, right? So let's go to pipeline again and let's create it again, the pipeline. Again, what we're gonna do, custom pipeline. Okay, name it, my process. Okay. Pipeline with deploy. Okay. Next, here service provider will be our GitHub. Next, same GitHub repository will be here and the main, not a problem. Next, okay, here are the build services. We have AWS CodeBuild, and what we build is we have to provide that name. And done, 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 done. Next, here we don't require it, but here now, previously you say that we skip here, right? Deploy part, but now we have to deploy it. So where I gonna deploy it? We have a S3 bucket. So we are saying that we gonna deploy on S3. The very first thing we created S3 bucket, if you remember, right? So here what I have to do is I have to find out the bucket name. So we created an Apache CI/CD bucket, right? If you remember. And here we say that extract the file before deploy. And I think we are done with this one. And it's create pipeline. Yeah. It will take a minute or two depending upon your full configuration, the file size, all those things, right? So previously, say, right, we have a source and the build. Now we have a deploy. Okay. So basically, all those three need to be successful to run, right? And meanwhile, what we can say is, where is our S3? Here is our S3. Oh, let me see one second. I think there is one more came, right? Service pipeline. Where we have to, sorry. We have to go to the S3. Okay, in S3 we have bucket, right? CI/CD bucket, and we have to go to find out our static this page, right? So if we gonna open here, see this already having index.html, right? Why? Because definitely our pipeline has been completed. See here, pipeline is completed. Source we it take it from the GitHub, okay. Then it build it through the AWS CodeBuild and it deploy over the S3, okay. That's why we can see it here. So now, just to give you 1 minute another demo about, let's suppose we have a file here, right? This is the index.html, okay. So normally in a production environment, every time your client gonna come to you, they say that these are the problem, I want a new features, blah blah blah, other things, right? So you have to change it. Let's suppose right now, if you can see my site, let's suppose any that website or app is this one, right? Welcome to my GitHub repository testing CI/CD, right? And here I gonna change something here. Let's suppose CI/CD with deployment, right? Oh, sorry, I'm writing somewhere else because I didn't click it. Blunder. Okay, so here I'm gonna say with deployment over S3. Okay, and what I gonna do? I gonna commit changes. So once I gonna commit the changes here, if you'll come, you will see it started again sourcing it. It's detected something, right? It will take time. Otherwise, what we have an option to release the changes here. If I'll just click the release changes, same thing it will do. Okay, same thing it will create. It will source it. It will build it. Okay, it is in progress. You can see the source is successful. Another is in progress. Okay, build. Okay, it is in progress. And after this one, the deployment part will start happening. Okay, and then later on you're going to see that automatically it will be changes. So it's like you can understand right now the full automation is there. So the developer which is having their repository, if they are changing something, if they want to post it, as soon as they're going to commit the changes in the their source file, it will be reflected in the production environment. That is what our intention was today to see. Okay, so let see, this is all succeeded, right? So if you're gonna come here, just refresh the page, you will see, welcome to the my GitHub repository CI/CD with the deployment over S3, right? So yeah, guys, that's it. This is this was our intention to cover it for today's session. Uh, I hope everything is clear to you guys. And I'm gonna stop the presentation. Let me say. So if you guys have any question query, you can ask or you can drop me a message. Otherwise, we are done for today. And you guys have our email and the mobile number. If you want to have a discussion, just let me know. We can create another scenario for some other. We can schedule it for another weekend. Okay. Yeah, app deployment, same process, my friend. But their process means like ideation will be the same, but we are not doing it over S3, by the way. Okay, we have Lambda and the other services are there, but we are not doing it over S3. Basically, S3 is just not just to show you how the CI/CD works. We demonstrated the static website. Okay, otherwise industry standard, we are not hosting anything on especially the website or the app, hosting anything over the S3. S3 basically we are using it for some other purposes, the storage purposes. Yeah, any other question, guys, or we are done for today if you don't have any question? Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for having me and thanks for being with me for only commit from the main branch will be seen. uh, it again depend. If you like what kind of permission you gave it. We have created YML file in a build file, right? So there we can mention everything we can automate it. If your files are in the main or even the inside that branch, we can do it every sort of thing, not a problem. Every automation can be done, can be achieved. Any other question, guys? Nothing? Okay, guys. Thanks for being with us for this hour-long session, and see you sometimes. Okay. Bye bye.